Hi, welcome back. So we've done our seating area. Now what we want to do is put in some seats. As you probably guessed, anytime that we're going to introduce a new element into our drawing, we may want to go ahead and make a class for it so that we can control it later on. So I'll go over here to my classes and let's see if it'll open. And I'm going to go down and I made a class called seating, right? And it's actually called seating layout, and we'll edit that. And the reality of the matter is I don't care about any of these properties, right? It can be solid. We just use the default line thickness of 0.05 because we won't really see any of these graphic attributes. So it's going to be just fine. You can just select all of that and it's okay, right? I might go ahead and select that as my current drawing, my current class, and then say okay. So I'm back at my drawing where I left off. Let's go ahead and go into a top plan view so that I can look at that little square now, and I can select that square. And what we need to do, we were in 3D modeling, right, is what we need to do is we need to go to another tool palette, to a different tool palette. And if you go and look over on the left side, you will see a tool palette called Event Design. Let's click on Event Design. The very first tool option there is called the Seating Section Tool. And that Seating Section Tool is what we're going to use. But you're going to want to open its options dialog box. We will double click on it. So if I double click on it, I get this big giant dialog box. And we don't need to concern ourselves with much here at all. I will allow you to, you can explore it more if you want. But what I do want to do is I want to select the chair. Your chair is probably something that looks like that, right? Because that's an event chair. And it is probably in a different library, right? So what you will need to do is look under your Vectorworks libraries, open your defaults file tab, scroll down, and I found that chair in the event seating symbols, right? The seating layout symbols. So I opened that and now select the file, the seating symbols.vwx file. And it will show you that there are 5 different kinds of event chairs in that drawing. And the one that I found that I like is the event padded theater seat. If you double click on this symbol, it will put it over here, right? And now I've just selected and highlighted that, and it shows this event padded theater. Okay, so with all of this selected, I should be able to go over here and say okay. Right? So now I've selected that as the type of chair that I want to have installed. Now I can come back to my seating selection tool and I'm going to select, I'm just going to click on it once to engage the tool. Now, the order of these clicks is pretty important. The first click is going to be in the lower right hand side. I'll click there and then I'm going to click the lower left hand side. I'll click there. And now the upper left hand side. So I just went along the bottom and the left side of my seating area. As soon as I made that third click, what it did is it brought me back to a little preview of what my seating is going to look like. And this it looks correct. You can see the front of the seat, you can see the back of the seat. They seem to be oriented in the correct direction. Now, I'll talk real fast about some options that are here, right? So alignment type, shift rows. There are several things here. You could offset the rows and it offsets the seats if you wanted, right? You could distribute the rows. I don't even know what that does. It doesn't look like it does much, right? So, but I'm just going to go back to the default that was there because we don't need much more than that. But there are a lot of options in here about how you can change how the seats lay out. And now I'm going to say, okay. Now, if we look at our drawing, we'll see that we have now inserted our seating area. Our little rectangle that we drew has sort of disappeared because it was consumed by that seating layout tool, and now just assumes that that rectangle is not part of the floor but is actually a boundary for the seating. Let's do a little fly around and let's see what our seats look like. Right? If I zoom in, and I'm just in wireframe mode, which is the most efficient way to fly around, you can see this wireframe mode of all of our seats. Let's go look in OpenGL and just see what they look like. Wow, there we go. So we have all of these seats now that are in our theater auditorium, so we can have an audience, and that looks really pretty cool. So real quick, the other thing that I will note to you is that that tool automatically added a couple of classes. And if I go back and look in our classes, those are drawn on the class that we created called Seating Layout. But it also created a couple of classes called a class called Furnishings. And inside of Furnishing, it has the chair, and it has the cloth, and then it also has the metal. Note that you could change the color. If you were to say use at creation, you could change the color of the cushion by changing the fill color of the cloth. That's just a little side note, but I'm just going to leave them all in their default mode for now. Probably a good time to save. File save, and we'll go from there. I'll be back in a minute.